In 1975, an entire country tried to erase money from existence completely, not inflate it, not devalue it, erase it, along with private property, markets, and even personal ownership itself. This is the story of the only nation in modern history to attempt a total abolition of currency and the devastating human cost that came with it. In April 1975, a communist movement called the Khmer Rouge seized control of Cambodia after years of civil war. Their leadership held an extreme vision, sometimes referred to internally as Year Zero, the idea that Cambodian society should be completely rebuilt from nothing, erasing cities, religion, education, and the entire existing economy. Within days of taking power, they forced the entire population of the capital, Phnom Penh, out into the countryside, along with residents of every other city in the country, regardless of age or health. The regime itself was often referred to only as Angkar, meaning the organization, a deliberately faceless authority that gave orders without most citizens ever knowing exactly who was in charge of their lives. The Khmer Rouge didn't just discourage the use of money. They physically destroyed the National Bank of Cambodia in Phnom Penh, blowing up the building that once held the country's entire financial system. Banknotes were left scattered in the streets and abandoned buildings, instantly worthless because there was no institution left to honor them and no legal economy left to spend them in. For nearly 4 years, Cambodia functioned with no official currency at all. Markets were banned outright. Buying and selling were treated as crimes against the new social order. The population was organized into forced agricultural labor communes, working under strict quotas from dawn until night, with food distributed communally in fixed rations rather than purchased, no wages paid for any work, and no legal way to exchange goods except through quiet, often dangerous, informal bartering between desperate individuals, trading small amounts of rice, medicine, or salt for whatever else a family desperately needed. This absence of money went hand in hand with an even darker campaign. Anyone associated with the old economic and educated class, bank employees, business owners, teachers, doctors, even people who simply wore glasses or spoke a foreign language, were viewed with suspicion as remnants of the system the regime was trying to erase. Many were targeted for interrogation, forced confession, or execution, simply for having existed inside the economy that had just been deleted. This wasn't an economic experiment carried out with the population's well being in mind. It was part of a broader system of total control, one that led to mass starvation, forced labor, and systematic executions. Historians estimate that between 1.5 and 2 million people, roughly a quarter of Cambodia's population at the time, died during the nearly 4 years of Khmer Rouge rule. This period is now remembered as the Cambodian genocide. International awareness of the scale of what was happening came slowly, partly because the regime sealed the country off almost entirely from outside observers. By the time the full extent of the killing was revealed, the damage to an entire generation was already done. The Khmer Rouge regime finally collapsed in January 1979 after a Vietnamese invasion removed them from power. Rebuilding a functioning economy from a country with no banks, no financial records, and no currency in circulation was an enormous undertaking. A new national currency, the real, had to be reintroduced from scratch, banks slowly reopened, and markets gradually returned, though the country carried the scars of those 4 years for generations afterward. What makes this story so striking from a financial perspective is what it reveals about money itself. Cambodia's experience shows that even in the total absence of money, people still needed some way to trade goods, value labor, and organize daily survival. Removing currency didn't create freedom from economic systems. It simply removed the systems that had made trade and basic survival easier to manage and replaced them with something far more brutal in their place. Today, Cambodia's brief period without any money at all remains the most extreme case on record of what happens when an entire economy is forced to operate with nothing recognized as currency. It's a sobering reminder that behind every economic system, however flawed, are real people trying to survive. Even decades later, Cambodia's currency history carries an unusual footnote because the real took years to earn public trust. After being reintroduced from nothing, US dollars remain widely used alongside the local currency in Cambodia to this day.